A lone starship streaked through the void, the unconscious alien princess in the arms of humanity's last desperate hope. Agent Caleb Miller, Earth's most cunning spy, had infiltrated the heart of the mighty Norcadian Empire for this prize. Princess Korvac, keeper of an ancient secret that could turn the tide in the Cold War consuming the galaxy. Posing as a rare alien courtesan named Kala, Caleb had seduced his way into the Imperial harem, catching the eye of both the lecherous Emperor Zorux and the sheltered Princess Korvac. Amidst the opulent palace's treacherous intrigues, he questioned the princess, slowly gaining her trust. She confided in him, revealing herself as the unwilling guardian of the coordinates to the Forge of the Gods, a mythical facility that could mass-produce invincible war machines to conquer the stars. But before Caleb could whisk Korvac to safety, a scheming rival courtesan betrayed his identity. Hunted by the Emperor's elite guardsmen, the spy battled his way to the palace hangar, the princess in tow. Korvac took an energy bolt meant for Caleb, her delicate form crumpling into his arms. With alarms screaming and soldiers closing in, Caleb hijacked a Norcadian starship. He laid the princess in the co-pilot's chair, her life force ebbing as blood soaked her gown. Punching the engines to full throttle, the craft roared out of the hangar and disappeared into the cosmic night. One human against an empire. Princess Korvac's life hanging by a thread. With her, the secret to saving the human race from obliteration in the looming intergalactic war. Agent Caleb Miller would have to beat the odds one more time. For Earth. For humanity. For the alien girl who sacrificed herself for him. The stolen starship shuddered as it tore through the shimmering veil of hyperspace, the unconscious princess cradled in Caleb's arms. He laid Korvac on the narrow bunk in the ship's cramped medbay, his hands already slick with her blood as he tore open the emergency medkit. The supplies were meager, barely enough for a scraped knee, let alone a blaster wound. But Caleb had been a field medic before he was a spy, and he'd pulled soldiers back from the brink with less. He worked feverishly, staunching the bleeding, cleaning the wound, injecting every vial of antibiotics and painkillers the kit held. Korvac's face was ashen, her breathing shallow, but she clung to life with the tenacity of one chosen by destiny for a higher purpose. Caleb found himself transfixed by her resilient beauty as he watched over her, an unfamiliar feeling stirring within the battle-hardened spy, a connection, a yearning to protect this woman he had risked everything to save. Glancing at the nav computer, Caleb laid in a course for Zephyr Station, a notorious smuggler's port where an old friend might shelter them. Raz was as grizzled and surly as ever when Caleb dragged the wounded princess into his dingy hideout, but he begrudgingly cleared a space for her. His mechanic, a plucky alien girl named Zix, helped Caleb repair the battle-scarred ship and tend to Korvac as she recuperated. In the dim light of the makeshift medbay, Caleb interrogated the princess about the Forge of the Gods. Her voice was weak but steady as she spoke of a forbidden world where the mythical facility lay hidden, sealed away by her ancestors after a catastrophic war. The key to finding it, she revealed, was encoded within her own genetic memories, accessible only through a sacred ritual. But even as she divulged these secrets, the specter of doom raced toward them. On the bridge of his command ship, Emperor Zorux seethed with rage, his eyes burning with the need for vengeance. By his side stood Koth, his deadliest enforcer, more machine than man, an unfeeling engine of destruction. Zorux's order was simple and merciless: recover the princess at any cost, annihilate anyone in the way. Koth's forces descended on Zephyr Station like a plague of metallic locusts, led there by the tracking device the traitorous courtesan had planted on Caleb. Alarms blared as Caleb, Raz, and Zix grabbed their weapons, prepared to sell their lives dearly to defend the princess. The station's narrow corridors became a charnel house as they fought the Imperial assault troopers hand to hand, the air thick with the ozone tang of blaster fire and the coppery stench of blood. Outnumbered and outgunned, Caleb played his final card. He raced to the station's reactor and jury-rigged an overload, turning the entire structure into a ticking bomb. Koth, poised on the brink of a Pyrrhic victory, had no choice but to pull his forces back rather than be consumed in the coming inferno. Amidst the chaos, Caleb half-carried, half-dragged Korvac to Raz's ship. The princess begged him to leave her, to save himself, but Caleb just flashed her that roguish grin that had charmed the Emperor's harem. "I didn't come this far to abandon you now," he quipped, buckling her into the co-pilot's seat as Zephyr Station disintegrated around them. They blasted away from the expanding ball of plasma that had once been a space station, flying full throttle into the unknown. Caleb held Korvac tight as the ship rocked from the shockwave, shielding her with his body as debris pinged off the hull. They had escaped the Empire again, but now they were fugitives with the galaxy's most feared enforcer on their tail. Their only hope was to unlock the secret of the Forge of the Gods before Koth caught their scent once more. The stolen Norcadian ship hurtled through the inky void, its occupants still reeling from their narrow escape. Caleb's hands trembled slightly as he plotted a course for Axon, the forbidden world that held the key to their survival. Beside him, Princess Korvac's eyes shimmered with a mix of pain and commitment. "We need to perform the ritual," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's the only way to unlock the genetic memories that will guide us to the Forge." Caleb nodded, his mind focused. "Then that's what we'll do. But first, we need to make a stop." Hours later, their ship touched down on a desolate asteroid. A grizzled figure emerged from a hidden bunker, followed by a lithe alien with iridescent skin. "Raz Zix," Caleb called out. "We need your help." The old smuggler grunted. "Figures. Can't stay out of trouble, can you, kid?" As they lifted off, Zix tended to Korvac's wounds with surprising gentleness. The princess's eyes never left Caleb as she recounted the history of her people, the Axini, and their ultimate fate at the hands of the Norcadians. "I'm the last," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "The only one who can reclaim our legacy and bring justice for my people." Caleb took her hand, his touch electric. "You're not alone anymore," he promised. Axon loomed before them, a verdant orb shrouded in mystery. As they descended through the atmosphere, the lush canopy parted to reveal a world teeming with danger. Massive predators prowled the undergrowth, their roars echoing through the alien jungle. The group hacked their way through the dense foliage, following Korvac's instincts. Venomous plants snapped at their heels, while unseen creatures chittered in the shadows. During a brief respite, Caleb found himself alone with the princess. "I never thought I'd find myself here," Korvac admitted, her eyes meeting his. "With someone like you." Caleb's heart raced as he leaned in, their lips meeting in a passionate kiss. The jungle faded away, leaving only the two of them, bound by fate and growing affection. Their moment of bliss was shattered by a blood-curdling screech. A monstrous, six-limbed beast burst from the underbrush, its maw dripping with acidic saliva. Caleb and Korvac fought back-to-back, their movements in perfect sync as they fended off the creature. As the final blow fell, they stood panting, covered in alien ichor. Korvac's eyes blazed with a fierce light. "We're close," she said. "I can feel it." The hidden temple rose before them, its ancient stones pulsing with ethereal energy. Korvac approached the central dais, her steps sure and purposeful. As she began the ritual, the air crackled with power. Suddenly, Korvac's eyes rolled back, her body rigid as visions flooded her mind. She saw the Forge, its awesome power, and the catastrophic consequences should it fall into the wrong hands. "Caleb," she gasped, reaching for him. Their minds merged in a rush of sensation and memory. In that instant, he saw everything she had seen, the weight of galaxies settling on his shoulders. The moment shattered as explosions rocked the temple. Koth had found them. "Go!" Raz bellowed, drawing his blaster. "I'll hold them off!" Tears streamed down Zix's face as she pulled Caleb and Korvac toward the exit. The sounds of battle faded behind them as they raced through the jungle, the secrets of the Forge now shared between them. They burst into the clearing where their ship waited, the whine of Norcadian fighters growing louder. As the engines roared to life, Caleb caught a glimpse of Koth's merciless visage through the closing hatch. The ship rocketed into space, leaving Axon and their fallen comrade behind. Caleb set a course for the coordinates burned into his mind, his hand finding Korvac's. "We have the knowledge," she said, her voice tinged with both hope and trepidation. "Now we just have to reach the forge before they do." The stars streaked past as they plunged into the unknown, the fate of galaxies hanging in the balance. The stolen ship dropped out of hyperspace with a shudder, revealing a desolate dwarf planet hanging in the void. Caleb's eyes scanned the barren, cratered surface as he guided their craft towards the coordinates burned into his mind. "There," Korvac breathed, pointing to a barely visible seam in the rock face of a massive crater, "the entrance to the forge." As they touched down, Zix busied herself with the ship's sensors. No signs of pursuit yet. The trio emerged onto the windswept surface, their breath frosting inside their helmets. Korvac approached the hidden entrance, her hand trembling as she pressed it against an unmarked section of stone. With a groan of ancient machinery, the rock face split open, revealing a yawning darkness beyond. They descended into the vault, their helmet lights cutting through millennia of dust. Row upon row of dormant war machines stretched into the gloom, each a hulking giant of metal and weaponry. "By the stars," Caleb whispered, his voice filled with awe. Korvac moved with purpose, her fingers dancing across control panels. The facility rumbled to life around them, lights flickering on in sequence. A nearby assembly line whirred into action, pistons pumping and sparks flying as it began constructing a new war engine. "It's working," Korvac said, a note of wonder in her voice. "The forge lives again." They watched in amazement as the first new juggernaut took shape, its massive particle beam cannons gleaming under the harsh lights. More assembly lines activated, the cavernous space filling with the sounds of rebirth. Zix's communicator chirped urgently. "Incoming ships," she reported, her alien features twisted with worry. "A lot of them." Caleb's heart made, "Zorux." On the surface, the sky darkened with the arrival of the Norcadian armada. Koth stood on the bridge of the lead vessel, his cybernetic eye glowing red as he surveyed the planet below. "Deploy all forces," he commanded, his voice a cold metallic rasp. "Crush them!" The battle erupted across the dwarf planet's surface. Newly minted Axoni war machines strode forth from the forge, their weapons blazing. For a time they tore through the Norcadian ranks with ease, Imperial soldiers fleeing in terror before their unstoppable advance. But the Norcadian numbers were overwhelming. Wave after wave of dropships disgorged fresh troops and vehicles. Caleb, Korvac, and Zix fought desperately, coordinating the Axoni machines as best they could, but it seemed hopeless. In the midst of the chaos, Caleb's eyes lit up with sudden inspiration. He activated his long-range communicator, sending out an urgent coded message to his scattered network of contacts across the galaxy. "What are you doing?" Korvac shouted over the din of battle. Caleb flashed her a grim smile, calling in some favors. Minutes stretched into hours as the battle raged. Just as all seemed lost, new contacts appeared on the sensors. A ragtag fleet of battered ships dropped out of hyperspace, human vessels of all shapes and sizes, crewed by mercenaries, smugglers, and soldiers of fortune. "Let's even the odds," came a gruff voice over the comms. It was Raz, battered but alive, leading the charge in a refitted gunship. The human pilots wove between the massive Norcadian warships, their smaller craft exploiting weaknesses with surgical precision. Explosions blossomed across the Imperial fleet as the tide of battle shifted. Amidst the chaos, Caleb spotted Koth's command ship. "Cover me," he told Korvac, leaping into the cockpit of a nimble Axoni fighter. He led the Enforcer on a wild chase through the planet's rings, dodging debris and weapons fire. With a daring maneuver, Caleb lured Koth into the magnetic field of a massive ring fragment. The Enforcer's cybernetics shorted out, leaving him helpless as Caleb's shots ripped through his ship's engines. As Koth's vessel spiraled away, trailing fire and debris, Emperor Zorux watched in disbelief as his once mighty armada crumbled. "Full retreat!" he snarled, fury etched on his face. "Fall back to the nearest stronghold." The Norcadian ships limped away, their ranks shattered. On the dwarf planet's surface and in orbit above, The victorious human and Axoni forces erupted in cheers. Caleb landed his fighter and embraced Korvac, both of them breathless and giddy with triumph. But even as they celebrated, Caleb's eyes turned to the stars. The Norcadian threat had been checked, but the war was a long way to go. With the Forge of the Gods under their control and a fledgling alliance forming between humans and the reborn Axoni, a new chapter in the galactic struggle was about to unfold. The dust settled on the dwarf planet's cratered surface as Caleb and Korvac surveyed the aftermath of their hard-won victory. Scattered debris from fallen Norcadian ships littered the landscape, a stark reminder of the battle's cost. Korvac's eyes lingered on the assembled Axoni war machines, their massive forms gleaming in the starlight. "It's remarkable," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, "to see my people's legacy reborn after so long." Caleb squeezed her hand, about to respond, when a piercing alarm cut through the air. Zix's voice crackled over the comms, urgent and afraid. "Incoming shuttle! It's breached our perimeter!" They watched as a sleek Imperial craft touched down, its engines kicking up swirls of dust. The hatch hissed open, revealing a figure Caleb had hoped never to see again. Emperor Zorux strode forth, flanked by his red-cloaked Praetorian guards. His eyes blazed with nearly unleashed fury as he surveyed the scene before him. "You pathetic fools think you've won?" Zorux's voice boomed across the battlefield. "I will burn this entire system to cosmic dust before letting you keep the Forge's power." Caleb tensed, his hand instinctively moving to his blaster. But before he could act, Korvac stepped forward, her bearing regal and defiant. "Hear me, Zorux," she proclaimed, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. "The Axoni have returned. No longer will we suffer under Norcadian oppression." With a gesture, the towering war machines pivoted, their fearsome weapons trained on Zorux and his guards. The air crackled with palpable energy as the two forces faced off. For a heartbeat, it seemed Zorux might order his men to attack. But as the gravity of his situation sank in, the Emperor's persistence crumbled. His face contorted with hatred as he spat. "This isn't over." Zorux and his guards retreated to their shuttle, which quickly disappeared into the inky void of space. Caleb let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. In the days that followed, a new order began to take shape. The Forge hummed with constant activity, churning out advanced weaponry and technology. Caleb found himself in strategy sessions with both human and Axoni leaders, mapping out the future of their fledgling alliance. "We need to merge our strengths," Caleb argued, gesturing to a holographic display of ship designs. "Axoni tech with human innovation. It's the only way to ensure lasting peace." Korvac nodded, her eyes alight with possibility. "Yes, and more than that, we must forge a new path, one that unites all races in pursuit of freedom and understanding." Their vision quickly took shape. In a ceremony broadcast across countless worlds, Korvac officially disbanded the Norcadian Empire. Cheers erupted from oppressed peoples throughout the galaxy as she proclaimed a new era of cooperation and liberty. The culmination of these momentous events came in the form of a grand celebration. Dignitaries from 100 worlds gathered to witness the union of Caleb and Korvac, a marriage that symbolized the joining of their peoples. As they sealed their vows with a kiss, the assembled crowd roared its approval. Caleb pulled Korvac close, marveling at how far they had come from that first desperate escape. But even as jubilation swept across the galaxy, darkness lurked in the shadows. In a dimly lit cantina on the fringes of known space, a hooded figure hunched over a grimy table. Across from him sat an alien whose features were hidden behind an ornate mask. "I've already set the pieces in motion," Zorux's voice rasped from beneath the hood. His eyes gleamed with malevolent purpose as he gestured to a hulking cyborg lurking nearby. "They may have won the battle, but this is nowhere near the end." The masked alien nodded, passing a data chip across the table. As Zorux's fingers closed around it, a chilling smile spread across his face. The galaxy's newfound peace was about to face its first true test.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.